How much everyone is incredibly focused on making sure we're doing the right thing, delivering value to the entire ecosystem. That includes the consumers, it includes agencies, it includes the advertisers, and it includes all of those organizations that rely on advertising in order to deliver free services throughout the web.
I learned a lot about what's happening in the industry. I heard, in particular, that the industry is very much concerned about getting trust of their customers, so it's not against the customer, but with the customer. There were interesting questions on e-privacy, and of course I learned about the American, the CCPA, and many other things. So it was very interesting.
There are still a lot of problems with online advertising that creates a problem for fundamental rights, but also for trust for businesses, and that we really need to move forward and create a regulation that protects consumers, that protects individuals, while at the same we can create a new open and transparent internet which better protects both consumer trust and also the business's interest.
But the most important thing is that we need to have trust. And for trust, we need to educate citizens, we need to inform citizens, and we need to empower citizens. And when we have that trust and empowerment, we can also strike the right balance between self-regulation and legislation.
I think FEDMA is extremely important. It's a place for the gathering of ideas, new approaches, to put on the table what's working well, what's not working, and really leverage the total thinking of the entire ecosystem to solve these problems and make the best consumer experience possible.
From all the contributions we heard and the questions that were asked is that we need a level playing field, first of all, a level playing field where also a European digital ecosystem can flourish. We need to have a prevention of a silo approach, geographically and in terms of different policy approaches to the topics that we discussed.
The legislators and industry recognize that we need to work together in order to properly implement legislation like GDPR, and that the expertise industry associations have on their particular sector are essential to properly interpreting the legislation.
Main takeaway for tonight was cooperation between different stakeholders, balance between different legal regimes, important input from the industry, and the best use of the available tools for creating sustainable digital policies for consumers and business alike.
The role of trade associations, of course, is crucial because they bring the perspective of sometimes a big amount of companies that work, in this case, in online advertising. They bring the view of the companies, but of course, for me, as coming from the civil society, we need also to have the fundamental rights aspect, to have the civil society views to counterbalance sometimes interests which are not always on the same side.
The importance of industry and brands working together so that we can deal with self-regulation and leave the legislation to the absolute highest level of privacy legislation and do as much self-regulating as we can as an industry.
I think is that it was great to see different sections of the industry all coming together to discuss the issues and willing to achieve consensus, but that there is still a lot of work to do because it's quite challenging and it's not always easy to see the way forward.
Well, trade associations play an important role, like consumer protection associations and other associations and stakeholders. I think it's good to bundle the interests of the members and also having an interlocutor for the Commission. So I think it's at Parliament and Council, of course.
The role of FEDMA is incredibly important, bringing together this group of trade organizations, of advertisers, of people like us who are in the privacy space offering software, really allows that juxtaposition of different opinions, different thoughts, and different ways to get to the solution. FEDMA is incredibly important to bring that group together.
Given that we have multiple tools, co-regulation, self-regulation, it's very important to have trade associations that are responsible, accountable, and bring together all relevant stakeholders to put the debate forward.
Well, of course, in that context, the work that FEDMA is doing on industry codes And in fact, FEDMA is the only industry sector that had a code approved under 1995 legislation. The FEDMA code that's going through the process of approval properly defines how to apply GDPR for the data and marketing sector.
Well, the role of FEDMA is pretty obvious to us in the industry, in the sense that FEDMA has developed a code of conduct on privacy, which is, I would say, a reference that we have been using for years. FEDMA is working hard towards a new version. My main takeaway from tonight is that in the next 5 years, the digital single market should be shaped out of the silo with privacy, innovation, and competition in mind.
It's crucial to hear for a member of the parliament, for somebody who is working on legislation, regulation that will affect your sector, to hear from the sector how the great ideas that we all have will actually work in practice, what it will mean for the companies that you represent. If we wouldn't do that, we wouldn't be doing our job. So very important to hear them tonight, and very interested to keeping the dialogue open in the future.